Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Sight. Today we're going into day two of the U.S. Masters event, game four, and I'm playing against Alan Buehner. So he's got a pretty nasty Twilight list that I feel like more people probably should have been talking about going into the event. But Alan and I kind of sparred against each other going into the event. So I knew his list, I knew the capabilities, and it is devastating. It's nasty. But knowing those things, I also have a little bit of an idea of how to combat against him. So this is this was my favorite game of the event. Day two in general, though, that all of them are just going to be great games. So we're in for a treat tonight, and the game five and game six coming out after this are also going to be great ones. So let's go ahead, dive into Alan's list, and we'll get into the game. So Alan's Twilightkin, he's got a regiment of Corsair Voidwalkers, two troops of Phantoms, three hordes of Ravengers, two Soul Flares, three regiments of Void Skiffs, all with harpoons, but no blood hexes, couldn't get the points for it. He has three Summoner Crones, one with Amulet of Fireheart, Enthrall, and Blood Boil, the other with Zephyr's Crown, and the third with Conjurer's Staff, Enthrall, Alchemist Curse. And then he has Lothiel, 15 drops, 24 unit strength. So the big thing leading into this event is Alan and I, when we were practicing this Zephyr's Crown, gaining Wind Blast, he was doing it and gaining Piercing because Summer Groans gain Piercing on their spells. And Wind Blast is one of those spells that's included. However, he was told or informed, somebody corrected this and called out a rule that states any items don't gain the wielder's mundane abilities or magical abilities. So this item gives him Wind Blast. He isn't paying for Wind Blast, which is a lot cheaper. The item's 20 points and the Wind Blast is 35 points for the same amount of Wind Blast. So yeah, he's going to take the discount. But the issue was is that the lists were already submitted, and then it came to light that this was not as intended, not as he wanted it to be. So I think this definitely affected Alan in his games because this extra Summoner Crone with Wind Blast 5, it's providing inspiring, but outside of that, it's not really contributing to his game plan, which is, obviously push pull with enthralls doing damage, and Wind Blast with these other guys, and to be able to pull people into the threat range that is these Ravengers. And so it's like I said, it's a nasty list. It has a lot of tricks, and you kind of have to know what to do to defend against it. Otherwise, it will just pull you apart, literally. So, yeah. So, just a caveat on that. I think that Alan and I have talked, and his list would look a little bit different than it does right now in order to accommodate for that error, essentially. So here is Alan. Alan did actually win, I believe, number one best sports for the event. We had a great game. He's a great guy, so he got my vote. No disrespect to anybody else that I played, but um, yeah, this game just kind of has a little bit of everything. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So, big thing is mission. We're playing control. So for control, I do like that in this matchup because I'm not put on a clock. I'm not required to come into his side of the field, which is where I will die to all that shooting. I can hold out on my side of the field and kind of play it a little bit slower than otherwise we might not be able to if it's a loot token scenario or if it's push or invade, things like that. So So terrain wise, we got two hills, the big white things. The forests are the or not blue, light blue circles here. We have the field, which is height one. The water feature height flat. There is two impassables. There is an obstacle just on this side of this forest, and the other obstacle there. And deployment wise, Buehner has a regiment of soul flares back here. This is his wind blast mage. Two of his what are they called? Skiffs. He then has this, I believe, is the Blood Boil Mage, and then he has one, two, three Ravengers in the middle. That's Lathiel. The other one is the Alchemist Curse Mage. He has both Phantoms sitting behind. Another, what are they called? Soul Flares. I have those too. Uh, Skiff, and then a regiment of dudes. So and then for my deployment, I went with Horde of Scarecrows with Tormentors behind, Butcher Flesh Ripper, and the Horror Riftweaver. I then put my Dread Fiend here because we do need to hex this game. Yet again, another game that we're very, very happy to have hex. Lathiel is a good hex target. Not as great as Morgoth or Namagrok in the previous games, but still a very good target. So I'm very glad we've taken hex. Both Mind Screeches. We then have our core center here, which includes two scarecrows, butcher, and horror riftweaver in between. Both two soul flares, the other tormentors, and I did end up putting a butcher flesh ripper behind. And then off on the far right, I have scarecrows and soul flares. So the ones on the right have J Boots. The ones on the far left here have Helm of the Drunken Ram, and Blade of Slashing is the one that's missing a guy. So let's take a quick moment. There's a lot of pre-game decisions here, which uh, don't always happen in the games, or maybe I just don't talk about them. But there's actual conscious pre-game decisions that need to be made in this matchup. Um, so one, Alan, I have more drops than Alan, so I got to see kind of where the core of his army's going. And I'll be honest, I expected the core of his army to go over here. Um, yes, there are terrain features here with the field and the forest that he's going to be directly across. But I think that over here is a much better option because you can still see stuff versus over here. Because he is behind a hill here, and I measured this before the game started. 6 inches does not put his leader point onto the hill. He is still just behind that hill. So he is not going to be able to shoot anything that sits behind this hill for at least 2 turns. He has one horde in range and he has the enthralls to be able to pull me forward in this lane here. But he still isn't going to be able to contribute or isn't going to be able to get clean shots with the rest of these guys onto that. So right away I look at this and I know I need to take advantage of that. So I had a couple ideas of how to play against this army in control. One of them was simply just stay on my side of the board and basically force him to come over the entirety of the board, and then we'll fight once he crosses the center line. Which I think is a perfectly fine plan, and I might have done if Alan didn't give me this particular opportunity to abuse this hill, which is a pretty significant, a good size hill that I can just hide behind and hold back and prevent him from enthralling my stuff forward because he can't see me behind this hill. So I Yeah, so instead of just playing it passive and holding back, I believe this is allowing me the opportunity to actually go for a win. Or I would still play for a win in the other game, in the other way, but it would be much more of a scrappy style. This one is going to be more, let's go get him. So that's my game plan. Off to the right, I don't expect to win that. I am simply putting something out there because if I didn't, I feel like I couldn't push up behind the hill because he would move forward and outflank me on that side. So then I wouldn't even be able to push up past this building. So I had to put something out there. I don't expect it to do much, but uh, it's there. So realistically, my left flank is the one that needs to push forward, push through. But as the table stands here, I expect to control my side, control the back left. I'm going to try to control the back right, but I think Alan has the opportunity to just kind of blitz that side of the board, just running straight forward at it. He'll be able to win it if he does that. But then I'll just, he'll get a horde of scarecrows and I'll get out of there with my flyers. And then I can threaten other stuff. But um, yeah, and then my goal is then to try to win the top left. And if I can win that, cave in to the center. So my goal is really realistically these four and this one if it's a passive game. So yeah, so that's the game plan going into this game here. Um, but yeah, we'll see how it works out. So um, Alan did win the roll for first turn, and none of his stuff can shoot me on first turn. So, and also we're playing control, and he has a lot of wind blasts, a lot of enthrall, so he's going to be able to manipulate what areas people are in at the end of the game. So naturally, he gives me first turn, which I did expect. I do think that's the right play, um, but it still doesn't address the issue of he's backed behind this hill, and if he did get first turn, he would actually be able to run up to where he can at the double touch the hill, or even move up onto the hill, and then I can't charge him. So he's actually going to be in a better position. But I definitely understand his thought process with giving first turn to me. So movement wise, it's pretty generic as you would expect here. I move up here. I'm letting Butcher get charged by whatever wants to charge it, but it's just moving forward. I ran forward with the horde of scarecrows. Everything else moved to look in towards the center. The Dread Fiend looks. He Hex Lothiel first turn. These guys moved into the forest and shot out. So we got cover. We shot at one of the crones. This whole ball moved, and again, I am just putting myself in a position to threaten anything that comes up on that hill. I can charge it. We can start the combat, but he cannot shoot this turn with these two hordes because he can't come touch the hill. And then I decided to push forward aggressively on the right flank right away, which I don't know if it's the right play, but I want to be able to put these soul flares at least in a position to threaten because I don't want him to come forward and threaten my center with flanks. I want to be able to prevent that. So that's why these guys are moving forward. I don't expect them to win, but I can still control this area, which would threaten my center. Shooting was exceptionally good for us again to start. So 2 wounds. That's average for cover shots. But we did get a waiver on him, which is very good for us. And then we also got the hex on Lothiel. So, limiting his wind blast or enthrall options right away. Because if we didn't do that, he could easily have pulled our guys straight into a firing zone. I did block off, the hordes, so he would have been pulling a butcher in, but still, we don't, we're preventing the pull either way. So that's great for us. This is Alan's positioning. Just shuffled forward a little bit, but he realized that he can't reliably get any shots in on my center squad. So he's taken his shots with his, what are they called? Flank gun thingies, the harpoons on this side and over here. And then he's just going to wind blast my butcher over here back a little ways to stay out of threat range. So that is what he does. And then he actually does back up this regiment a little bit, which I was a little surprised by. I do think, like I was discussing, why did I move forward on the right flank? It's to prevent his units from being able to flank towards the center. I think the same can be said for Allen. I think he needs to move stuff forward on his left flank, my right flank up here, to prevent me from just turning these guys in and collapsing on the center. But he's not really positioning anything to threaten me because, like these soul flares, they can only see the center. There's no line of sight here. These guys, they turn their flank to shoot, and I'm actually planning on wind blasting them this next turn. So I think this is a missed opportunity to help defend his lines on Allen's part here. So yeah, so then my turn, and this is how it ended up looking. So we'll go over it. So after my wind blast, I ended up back basically to my unit here. So I went ahead. I need to wait for these scarecrows to get in because they're delivering these other units. I can't really put those other units out and accept a charge with them. So the scarecrows need to be alive and doing their job in order for me to really kind of get in on this flank. So the butcher ran. He's getting some cover this turn behind the obstacle, and just positioning in such a way that, that he can't see me to charge me. I didn't actually check closely, but it was really close. The soul flares, they can actually see him, and they're in my flank, but I am just outside of his front arc. And his front arc literally is like a quarter of an inch past me. So again, this is one of those situations where, like in my previous game against Ed, I just looked, I moved, and I assumed I was in the right position, but I didn't communicate my intent. I didn't actually double check if I was. This time I got lucky though. I was just out of his front arc. Otherwise, he has an easy jump, hit the flank right there with the soul flares if he wanted it. We obviously have answers with units charging him if he does do that, but still something that I don't need to be giving him the opportunity to do. So. Yeah, we move out. We're out of front arc here. We're out of range there. We're out of range there. We are still hexing with the Dread Fiend. And then, like I said, over here on the right, my goal with these guys is to hold this section, but Buehner keeps giving me opportunities. I move in such a way that these can't charge me. The skiffs can charge me right now until I wind blast them a single inch, which they'll bounce off of this unit back here, and then his leader points outside of the forest, and he can't see me. So, yeah, this is allowing me to threaten a flank effectively. If he ever comes up on this hill here, I'm not in range this turn to charge. I'm protecting this area of the board right now. But if I move forward 8 inches, I'm going to be threatening this area of the board, and that's his main line. So yeah, getting an opportunity here to get a couple units in the fight that I really wasn't expecting to be able to fight with. So shooting, we shot over the top with the Mind Screeches, did 3 wounds this turn, got a waiver again. We did get a successful hex on Lothiel again, so we are doing pretty well, I would say. Yeah, so this is Alan's turn, and this is what he ends up doing. So, um, yeah. So he moves forward. So the void skiffs, they nimble, they back up. They're shooting. They're going to be shooting here, but they're facing that way. Um, skiffs are weird. I don't know the right way to play them. Yes, he wants the shooting in here. He wants to kill this horde this turn. He moved this horde up to get clear shots. He ran Lothiel up behind this screen of scavengers, not scavengers, phantoms, because he wants to use her special ability, and he's going to remove stealthy on this unit. So even though he's hexed, he's still contributing with that ability. Um, so yeah, but these void skiffs are not not actually looking at anything to really threaten him. So it's just a weird positioning to really have to put yourself into in order to get these shots off. So yeah. And then on the right flank, this after I wind blasted him back, he just sidestepped over. But again, I'm looking at this. He's not looking at these things over here, and I'm just thinking. I'm like, am I missing something? Is this a trap? Is there something he can do to really put me in a bind here? And um, no, I mean, I just have too much in the middle that's going to be able to support if he ever just goes this way. So again, yeah, this is I think what's really opening up the opportunities in the center for me here, and we're going to get into that this next turn. That's my plan. But his shooting does succeed. Again, remove the stealthy. So fours and twos with 18 shots, so that's 8 wounds. He's got um another 16 shots from the skiffs, fours and twos. So that's another 7 wounds. So, 15 wounds is average and 6 twice to kill. So he did it. Yeah. And then that will go over to my turn 3. So this is what it looks like. So on the left-hand flank, we are going more aggressive with the butcher, throwing him way up there. As far as he could go by stumbling over a fence, but keeping everybody in the front, and it'll be hindered charges. But if we get wind blasted, our goal is to still be within charge range of something. Yeah, and then again, these skiff positionings. This one's out of range of the Dreadfiend. This one can't see the Dreadfiend arc wise. So, there's a gap. There's a hole here. I wasn't in range to charge the flank of the horde. I was just out of that. So Buehner did double check that. But now, I'm like 5-6 inches closer. So I'm threatening the middle of the board with my Dreadfiend. Um, and I'm still going for the hex on Lothiel here this next turn. So um, yeah. So and then in the center we took a butcher and a horde into the phantoms. Everything else moved up in such a defensive pattern. Effectively, my main goal here was I want to limit what these other phantoms can see. They can see the butchers, but because the butchers are on the hill, they can't see past them to see my soul flayers. And then they can't see past to see these guys. They can't see these, so they're charging butchers or they're going to charge a horde of scarecrows. That is their option. And then look, we march forward over here on this one, or maybe just shy of marching forward. I didn't want to give him a charge threat option with this unit out this way and stayed out of front arc of these. So again, we're safe. Nothing can charge us here. And now we have a J-booted unit coming in from the left-hand side, while we also have the Dreadfiend coming in the right. We got a double pincer going here, boys. So I'm liking the position going in towards the center here. but I know that you know, Alan's stuff. He just has enough shooting that he can, even though I charged one of his units, he can shoot off enough of my stuff, and then I still, don't reliably kill these hordes in one go, and then they can kind of grind me down too. So I need to essentially overcommit to take out this center battery here. So soul flares come in, only do 4 wounds, a little low, but it is what it is. We, I guess, the other thing is lightning bolt took off that crone this turn. That was on 5 wounds, so we did get lucky with that. So we've eliminated his blood boil crone, and we've successfully hexed Lothiel again for the 3rd turn in a row. So very happy with that. Something I'm not happy with, however, though, is rolling Snake Eyes on Phantoms in the very center of the board here. Um, Annoying for sure, but we're still in a fairly good position. It's tough to say that uh, seriously, but I mean, we aren't in a bad position. It isn't the worst thing. Killing them would have been ideal because then we have everything threatening the shooting units, and he just can't stop everything that I have from threatening them. But some of the good things is like these soul flares, they can't fit in the flank of my horde here. He could charge the flank of the butcher, but then he has to kind of back up stuff. He has to make way in order to complete that. So, like I said, it could be worse, but we're we're gonna have to fight through the snakes. So, yeah, and that was my turn. What was that, 3? So now on to bottom of 3 here. And this is how Alan positioned. So he oh yeah, I had shot with one Mind Screech, I think it was, and did like 3 wounds to the crown. So I shot with the other one at these Dread Fiend or Soul Flares and did a couple wounds. Because I think I could only get one in position to shoot the crone. That's why I did that. So we did a couple wounds over here, which is definitely helpful. I know how fragile these guys can be, and we have clear shots on them, so that's really my next target if I can't get any of the other crones with clear shots. So his positioning, this unit is here. He didn't actually move a unit over here. So he countercharges the horde. He countercharges there. He takes the flank there because he desperately wants to kill off these soul flares. And yeah, so that helps. That limits the amount of shooting he has. So that's good. Um, and then he positions his last unit of phantoms to block off the flank of this unit here. Um, so yeah, I can still see the horde with my soul flares, but I can't fit between this unit and this unit and everything. So yeah, we're forcing him to dedicate resources over here. But still, the big thing is he keeps backing up this regiment, and I mean, I know he wants the unit strength. I know he wants to hold that section, but I think he needs to stop. He needs to stop this somehow. And if he's not going to turn, soul flares to look at it, and the boats again aren't going to really have a clear line of sight. I can move to where the boats can't see anything. He's really not addressing that flank. But shooting, he unloads everything into this butcher. There was a couple of shots that could only go into this one. So he does 10 wounds, gets a waiver on this butcher. He does a few wounds to this one. And then he kills the soul flares in the center and reforms as such. So this is my turn 4. And this is where we get in. So on the left, again, we're still pushing forward. Big thing here is the Butcher Flesh Rippers going for gold. He's keeping this guy in the front, but we have no other shooting targets with our lightning bolts. So we say, well, you got 2 wounds. I'm going for that waiver. So shooting these guys with the lightning bolts, keeping it to where they can't charge the back units, but they can charge the scarecrow horde, or obviously the flank of the butcher. Um, yeah, we're just trying to push. We're trying to get in there. We can't have those guys sitting back. So and then in the center, the horror riftweaver went around and hit the void skiffs. Want to lock them down. The tormentors go into these guys. Not really looking for a kill or expecting a kill, but when they have 4 wounds on them already, I think we're due for a good waiver there. And we have Dread, so and then the Dread Fiend hits the flank, like all good Dread Fiends do. The Butcher Flesh Ripper, after all of Alan's reforms, he left a gap opening for us to go into Lothiel. So we're coming off the hill, hitting Lothiel. Got to shut down that guy. He's a pain in the ass. So, and then we got to shut down all the rest of the shooting. So we charge into these phantoms. We're hindered. Not exactly what I want, but we didn't have any good choices for the soul flares. So the soul flares are positioning again to help in the center. They got angle on both these hordes here. So and then also will be a counterpunch if his soul flares come in. Yeah, so that and then we're countercharging with the horde here. This one was the wavered butcher, so he backed up to where he's leader points still touching the hill, but he's behind it, so we're getting cover. So all in all, good positioning. We're in a good spot. I like my odds of getting waivers on a couple of these hordes. We're at the very least disordering this one, so I expect we'll lose this unit. But I think to guarantee it, he's going to have to double charge or potentially risk flub on 4s or a low nerve roll. Like um, his stuff isn't guaranteed one-shotting my units, so that's always nice. Shooting. Hey, buddy, we did 6 wounds with lightning bolt, and you bet your ass we rolled the 7 twice. Soul flares down, so that's a big win for us for sure. We Speaking of big wins, not for us though. We roll snake eyes again. Same fucking phantom troop. They're at 12 wounds now. Actually, no, they were above 12 wounds. I didn't even roll it. He just told me snakes, and then when I roll snakes, which he's not inspired here, Lothiel ran away. So there's no inspiring. It was just a true one-time snakes did it. Okay, let's roll the dice. These guys are devastated. So, yeah, is what it is, I guess. So, um, anyway, but then we get ungodly luck right back at it and roll, 6s to hit going hindered. We get like 7 hits and do 5 wounds and then roll a 7 twice to kill this one. And it's like, what the fuck is this game? So it's just back and forth, back and forth. But we reposition to keep these two hindered and in the front, so that's always good. I mean, we'll take killing unit strength's just great. In control, we've got that's the other thing. We've got Buehner blocked into 2 squares now. We have the mobility and the units to be able to spread out and get all the squares we're currently not in. It's only turn 4, so we're going for the throw. I want to take out all the unit strength if possible. Don't give him any opportunities because he does have the wind blast, the enthrall, the ability to manipulate my units on the bottom of turn 6 and pull out a sneaky win. So we need to keep the pressure on. We can't let up here. So yeah, other combats we do get a waiver with this one. So they're up to 8 wounds. The other one took 8 wounds, but we did not get a waiver. So, um, yeah, I mean it happens. And then Soul Flares came in, did a lot more than the other ones. They put these guys up to 7. But he's fine. No waiver there. So this is what it looks like going into Buehner's turn. Also, the Horror Riftweaver came in, did some damage. I think it was like 6 or 7 damage, which was extremely good. Um, but no waiver there. And then yeah, so over here he took the flank, countercharged the front. I might have actually wavered that unit now that I think about it. I think I did. I think I got lucky and wavered this unit because, yeah, I see 7 wounds, dreads 8. I think I rolled the 6 to waver him. And then he said, stop picking on Lothiel. So he took a flank with his Soul Flares into the Flesh Ripper. These guys were wavered. The ones that got flanked here, they flank and he countercharges. He does the double charge here. So he's trying to redraw a battle line, is basically what I'm looking at here. He's tired of me kind of getting in and infiltrating his lines. So he wants to take out everything from here and back. So he does kill Soul Flares. He overruns. I think it was a full 6 inches with this horde, putting them here, and then reforms the other one that way. He does kill the Horror Riftweaver and turns this unit back, and but he doesn't kill the horde over there. And then should mention over the past 2 turns that I've rolled Snake Eyes on this unit, I think he's gotten my horde up to like 10 wounds with this one troop. 12 attacks on one turn, devastated for 6 attacks on the other turn. He's been rolling hot with this unit here. Um, and that's frustrating because he has the shooting to pick this horde off later in the game, and I do want that horde to live so that it can hold the center, my center. But yeah, we'll see. So my turn, I took these tormentors into the flank here, butcher flesh ripper into the front there. My shooting, I only have, or I have this to shoot at. It's at 8 wounds. I ran the Horror Riftweaver up in such a way that it can provide dread over here. I don't need it here. I just not need to not roll Snake Eyes there. Um, yeah. And then other charges, we took the Dread Fiend into the Soul Flares. This Butcher, who was on 10 wounds and just life support back here, survived. So he is charging the flank of this 8 wounded Ravager Horde. And then the fresh Soul Flares are going into the front of the 7 wounded guys. We then countercharge the skiffs over here because we want to limit his flying ability and have some good reform options if we kill. So yeah, we're into the thick of it. All of his stuff's on life support here. We just need to pull through, which we do. The shooting starts off strong. We kill the Ravager Horde there. We finally kill a troop of phantoms, boys. Mission accomplished. It only took 15 wounds plus, well, I didn't even roll it. He said just don't roll snakes again. Uh, so we kill it. We back up with this unit. The flank from the butcher finishes off the other unit. Soul Flares finish off the other. So we picked up all 3 Ravager hordes this turn. We're loving it for sure. And then we do ground this unit as well. The one thing that I didn't pick up, which I thought I would, was this skiffs. 24 attacks on 3s and 3s in the flank. And maybe I shouldn't pick it up, but that should be like 16 hits and then 10 wounds. And then a couple more wounds from the front, so 12 wounds. No dread over there, so I don't think it was a Snake Eyes, if I remember correctly. I think it was just a low roll and got a waiver. Um, yeah, so we did really well, but the one thing that we weren't able to do this turn is control his casters. So Lothiel is finally free to cast a spell for the first time in this game. The Alchemist Curse Mage is free to cast a spell. He has this Wind Blast Mage over here, but realistically, again, it's only providing Inspiring. He's not doing damage with it, which is unfortunate for him. He would have been picking on some of these small units that were coming in from the beginning of the game, and really, causing havoc for me. Yeah. So his shooting. So first off, his charge, he took the flank there. He took the flank front there. He countercharged there. So pretty straightforward. His shooting was good enough to kill the horde, and his alchemist curse mage killed the butcher that was on 10 wounds. So yeah, so I mean these guys are still very potent. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen for the rest of the game going forward, because it easily could. He does kill the horde over there and reforms. And he kills the Horror Riftweaver from the flank. And this is how it looks. So my turn 5, we go here. So I had charging opportunities with this unit. Both these units, in fact. But his skiffs are on like 11 wounds, I think it was. So and this is turn 5, and he has those mages. So what I wanted to do this turn was put myself in a position to win for turn 6, and as soon as these leapers jump over, they're gonna get killed by the spells he has. So instead of jumping them over, I think I was out of range of Lothiel. Otherwise, I would have taken that charge. So I moved forward a little bit, and what I did was I moved forward in such a way that this horde is in his center and this troop is in the top left. So the line is effectively like this. And then I started going to score. So the this Mind Screech flew 6 this way, turned back so it can shoot. This one flew 6 this way, turned back so it could shoot. So we're going to try to shoot at Lothiel here, but realistically, the goal is get the terrain or get the scenario secured with those units that aren't engaged yet. Yeah, and then we charged in Pop J Boots. Again, I think Allen could have played this better. He's not looking for a counter charge here, which I feel like he should be. Like, bottom of 5, just kill this unit, and then after that reform, go look to, maybe run here or maybe you run to the center. But this reform, I think, could have been a little bit better. So shooting, I don't think anything really happened here. I think we had a poor round of shooting, which is fine. We've had some good rounds already. Um, so combat though, the Horror Riftweaver had charged the unit in the back, so we were able to pick up both of the skiffs, which is excellent for us. We're turning to look at the center, which is the casters at this point. We also killed the Mind Screech or the Soul Flares, which I was not expecting because we only did like 3 or 4 wounds the turn before, and the Dread Fiend kind of popped off and did like 4 or 5 wounds this turn. So, I mean, we're hot on those nerve roll dice here at the end of the game. And then speaking of devastating, he wasn't inspired. We came in, I think we did like 7 or 8 wounds because we had popped J boots, and we got lucky. We got the one-time nerf we needed. We lifted the unit, and again, if his unit was in a position to countercharge, I think that's great that I killed the unit. But I'm not in like an amazing position, but because he can't charge me, I'm in an amazing position now. So, um, and in fact, this was turn 6, wasn't it? I think I miscounted the turns. Yeah, I think that's what it was because, yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm playing like it's turn 6, if it's not, because 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think this is 6. So, sorry guys. But yeah, we're he's still winning this corner because this is unit strength 3 and I'm only unit strength 2. So on Alan's turn, he Shoots off my Dread Fiend because it was pretty heavily damaged from one combat from the Soul Flares that it was in. Yeah, and then we did roll and did get a turn 7, so that effectively looks like this. Instead of trying to fight this unit because I don't have J boots anymore, I flew over 16 inches and I got the bottom right with that unit. He's going to have the top right. And then I have a horde +1 in the center. We charge both wizards, so that way there is no way that he can, you know, do any shenanigans against me. And we're holding the back 2 in such a way that Wind Blast isn't going to stop us from doing that. So, um, yeah, we do kill, I think it was Lothiel. Don't kill the Alchemist Curse Mage. And that is where the game ends because there's nothing this unit can do. His Wind Blast is useless, so that was good game. So real bloody game in the end. Like I said, if this Wind Blast 5 was doing damage, I think he picks up another unit or two just through wounds that he's accumulated throughout the game. Um, yeah, just a real tactical game, real gritty game. I felt like, you know, if I don't have the practice and the understanding of Alan's list that I did coming into this game, I don't pull this off. I don't play remotely close to the way that I did. So it really helped to understand my opponent's army. Um, And, you know, I think Alan has a good understanding of my army as well. But I've played this army for several years now, and Alan's only played the list that he's been playing here for a few months. So I think there's just naturally things that you can't have learned over only a couple months of running an army. Um, and you know, this one was just like I said, this was my favorite game of the weekend, just because I thought that I had a game plan going in. I felt like it was solid, and the execution, although it might not have been perfect, looking at those two snake eyes in the middle, um, we were able to pull out a win, right? Even when the dice didn't go our way, we pulled out a win. We had the dice go our way several times throughout the game to help us get there. So, um, but really great game, and I, I mean, Alan's just a great player. And also, when Alan started playing this list, and you know, we talked about it. We did some tweaks. You know, he and I really kind of dived into what would be optimal for this list. I'm really in love with his list. I think it's excellent. If this was something that you know, he didn't actually think of, I would blatantly have, you know, stolen it and considered running it as a master's option if I had models for it. Um, I think this is an amazing list that Alan played very well over the weekend, but I think that it has a lot more utility and a lot more tricks that it can pull out. Um, and I think Alan just needs more time playing it to really open up those opportunities. So I feel sorry for the Mid Atlantic because Alan will be mastering this list, you know, over the next several months, I'm sure, and he's going to terrorize all of you with it. So, um, yeah, I just can't say enough about the army. I really love it. So, but this was game 4, and we got so we total opponent centers worth 2. So we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to Allen's 1. And then kill was, I believe, 1 point towards my favor. So I think this one came out to like a 17-point victory, which is very solid. And again, we were right up there. We're on table 4, I think it is. So you know, we were already top 10 going into this round. With a win, we should be easily top five. But I think, in fact, we are top two. So we have the next game, game five, will be against Mike Zettelmeyer. And this was one that was actually streamed on the Masters table. So I'm sure some of you may have seen that over on Dash 28. But if you haven't, don't worry. I'll have that battle report up shortly. So appreciate you all watching here, game four of Masters. And I'll have game five up in the next day or so. Thanks, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.